Hello and welcome to computer class. My name is Dave and today we're talking about HTML quotations, comments, and colors. So navigate to w3schools.com and click on the HTML tutorial and then quotations to start out with this lesson. Now, when it comes to quotations on a website, there are several ways that you can do things. You have the block quote, the Q, the abbreviation, the address, the site, and the BDO, as it's called. uh, tags. So I'll start out with the block quote. And if you've written an educational paper in your lifetime, you know that a block quote is a quote that is longer than I think 4 or 5 lines. And so the quotation is so long it needs to be inset. And you can do the same thing in HTML. You can use the block quote um, tags and you can create sort of an inset for a quotation that's really long on a website. So I'm going to hit the try it myself here, and you can see that it pushes it in a little bit when I put something in a quotation mark. And something else it does is you would tend to put the citation of where you got the information from, because it's really long, into the cite attribute there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab this entire thing and I'm going to drop it um, into my code here. I'm going to write block quote and then close off the tag. Okay, and this is a block quote. Okay, block quote tag actually is what I should say. Okay, that's how you do a block quote. Next, we have the quotation. This is for short quotations. If you notice right here, this is just simple stuff like you have a short quote from an individual, and I believe you can also use the cite attribute there, but we'll just stick in the Q real quick. And that is that's a quotation tag. And again, this is for just citing your sources and giving people the attribution that they deserve when you're creating a website. We have the abbreviation tag, which you could basically make it so that someone can, when they hover over a item on your website that's an abbreviation like HTML, it would just pop up with this little blurb that says hypertextual markup language. I'm not going to make us write this one down because it's not an incredibly typical one, but it is something to take note of if you ever have an abbreviation. You want to let people know that extra information. Super helpful to use. The next one is address. This one is literally used in the majority of website footers. That's why it's kind of important. And so what you would do is you would use the BR tag in between. So I'm going to copy that whole thing and drop it into my quote. And this is going to be the address tag. And the address tag, again, in the footer of almost every single website. Some websites nowadays are putting just their social media and things. Because some places don't actually have physical sites, so that makes sense. But anyway, the next one is cite, and the cite tag defines the title of a creative work, such as a book, a poem, song, movie, painting, a sculpture, etc. And as you can see right there, it basically just turns it italic underneath of it if you cite it. So that's something to be noted. Again, I'm not going to write that one down. And then BIDO stands for bidirectional override. It's a tag used to override the current text direction. So if you click that, notice it literally turns it backwards. So yeah, that's an interesting tag as well. But you can use that as you see fit. Moving on to comments. Now, comments are pretty important in HTML, and the reason for that is a lot of times we will use a comment to differentiate a section of our HTML actually, and to explain to someone who reads our code in the future what we did in that section. So this is how you write a comment, okay? And pretty much it's you can use comments for several things. You can use it to provide information, or you can do something that I do sometimes, which is write a line of code, but you don't want to use it yet, and so you can do something called commenting it out, which is what they did here. Basically, they commented out this line of code so it doesn't actually work in their code. Okay, so let's add this in here. And this is a HTML comment. Now, it should be noted that for each code language, there are different ways to do comments. So if you were to do a comment in CSS, it would be completely different, and you would have to learn that methodology. You can't just use this exact same thing for every single language. So that should be noted, since this is one of the first coding languages you're probably learning. All comments are different for all languages, okay? And so what I might do is, if I had, I'm going to do file, new, file, save as, and we'll say this is index.html. Okay, if I had a basic HTML page, which to get that I go to home and then grab my basic HTML page real quickly, and then go back to comments here. Oops, comments. There we go. Okay, so let's just say I have all this, tabbed to where it's supposed to be. Okay, save. Let's just say that I had a section here that was the header section. I might do, and let me just copy for the sake of speed here, but I might do a comment at the top of this section and say, or even nav section, let's do that. That's the top of every single HTML page. Nav section, or navigation bar, or something like that. Navigation bar, and then, when we start the next section, maybe it's the showcase, where you would have some carousel that's spinning around showing different pages, so showcase. So as you're writing these different sections of your HTML page, because you're going to have hundreds of lines potentially on a real website of code, you would want to comment and tell someone who might read your code in the future what exactly you're doing in that section. And so that would be the purpose of a comment. Okay, moving on to colors. Colors are kind of neat. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. As you can see here, you have RGB, hex, HSL. One that I'm going to talk about today is just hex, because I think it's pretty important. I might mention some of the others. But there is something to be noted. HTML supports 140 standard color names. And if you right click on this and open it in a new tab, you can see all of these random names for things like mint cream. That's really just awesome. Uh, moccasin or navy or olive drab. And it also gives you the hexadecimal value underneath. So if you wanted to use that or mix the color or use something called a color picker, you can right click on that. And here we go. This is a color picker built into, which by the way, if you want to know where this actually is, if you're on the page we're actually on, usually when you go down to, it's somewhere in here, I think, there's like a link to the color picker, or you can just Google it into Google, literally, color picker. But anyway, this is the color picker, and what it allows you to do is pick any color, and then you'll notice you can pick the hexadecimal value here. And so you could use lots of different colors on your website. So it is an example of this to couple it with something we've already learned. Let's go to our HTML page here, and let's put a style into here and do color, and then drop that hexadecimal. Oops, I didn't copy the hexadecimal value. Let's just copy this hexadecimal value for pink, because everybody loves pink, right? And then hit save. And when we load this up off our desktop, there we go. We have pink as an example. Okay, and so you can get these. There's tons more colors out there, but not only is there color names, there's also hexadecimal values for colors. Obviously, Dodger blue, you can do the background color for the page. I've already kind of talked about that. You can do the text color for a page by using color. And again, if you go back and watch previous lessons, I talked about background color, how to do font family, how to do font size, and how to align your colors there. So this is nothing more than that. A new thing here is a border. And basically, what a border does is it allows you to create a box around your text. And so let's actually copy that, because that's kind of a new thing. Let's grab that piece of code there. And so it says border, and then the colon differentiates it from the value. You have the attribute and the value. The 2 pixels is the thickness of the border, and then you can have it solid or you can have it dashed, different styles of borders, and then you would designate the color. So you could use a hexadecimal value there if you so desired. All right, so I'm going to drop that in, and this is how you do borders. Okay, in CSS. It should be noted, different code language. Okay, all right. Now, to go along those lines, there are multiple ways to do colors. Okay, you can do RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue, and you can actually, so if I type color picker into Google, right, what comes up is it tells me the RGB value no matter what color I pick. If I pick, this random one over here, it tells me the RGB, the three values, the red, green, and blue values there, or the CMYK if I wanted to use this for print, or the HSL, HSV, or the HSL. All of these are ways to, I'm going to close all these extra pages I have going on down, ways to color things in HTML. So here we have the RGB values. That's a way to do it. You could just type those after this right here, after the colon. You could just put it in there and it would create that color. Or you can do the HSL, which again, same thing, or the hexadecimal value. Now, if you want transparency, what you also have to do is you have to have an alpha value. So it would be HSL and then an alpha value, and then that last value there, like a 0.5, would create a transparency. So if you wanted to create a square over top of a picture that's like see-through blue so that you can, see the picture underneath, well, then you would have to use an alpha value color system. So you'd maybe use something like RGBA or HSLA. And that's the purpose of those. I'm not going to get too in depth into that because that's advanced HTML, but I just want to make you aware of it so that you could play with it and maybe create something cool with it. But for now, we're just focusing on the one thing, which is hex and hexadecimal values. The first two letters of them are RR, which is red. The second two letters are GG, which is green. And the third two letters are BB, which is blue. And those hexadecimal values equal different colors. Again, hex means 6 different values, and that's pretty endless. This page explains that pretty well. What I did today was I created a website. There I showed you I inserted a hexadecimal value and I inserted a comment. And that is basically all there is to know when it comes to these colors and these comments. So hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully you have liked this video, given it a thumbs up, and subscribed to the channel. And I will see you in the next video.